And welcome back to the broadcast. Glad you are with us. Joining me now is Dr. Andy Woods. Dr. Woods, welcome to the program.
Brandon, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Whew, I had to sneeze. Sorry about that. All right. What do you make of the conversation we were just having, Dr. Woods, with Peter?
Well, obviously, a lot of bells go off when I hear the issues discussed. I mean, number one, transnationalism or supranationalism over Europe. I mean, we've been talking about that from time immemorial. Mm-hmm. That's the 2 feet there in Daniel 2, the feet mixed with iron and clay.
Oh, no. You know all this happened in AD 70. Nero was the Antichrist. That great theologian Kirk Cameron told us. Come on.
Well, gee whiz, where do I go? How do I handle that one?
Well, you just have to admit you're wrong, you know?
Well, there are people that say that, as you know, preterists. But
yes.
The problem
of course,
is,
just so the audience knows, I'm being very sarcastic. Go ahead. Dr. Woods and I agree.
Yeah. Well, the problem is there was no 10-king confederacy in the time of Christ. Christ didn't suddenly overthrow a 10-king confederacy. So the details of Daniel 2 are yet future, and since the feet are connected to the legs, you know, we've been saying a long time that this future Antichrist empire is going to rise out of the cultural inheritance of ancient Rome, and that was the whole focus of your discussion, going back to Monet. By the way, Monet, I've looked at his memoirs, published memoirs, and I think it's almost on the last page. He says, and anybody can look these up, what we've done in Europe in terms of something that I'll call regionalism, meaning we're going to use free trade as an excuse to, you know, get these nations to sort of conglomerate. And once they're conglomerated, it's kind of like, just fooling. Didn't tell you we were going to have one currency. Didn't tell you we're going to have one military. Didn't tell you you're going to, you know, lose control of your borders completely. It was all just free trade, free trade, free trade. And Monet basically says you got to lie to them to get them involved in this conglomeration. I mean, he said that. When did he die? The late 70s, something like that?
79, I think it was.
Yeah, and then in his memoirs, he says what we've done in Europe, we're going to replicate all over the world. Now, he didn't give a number of regions, but the Club of Rome has told us there's going to be 10. Boy, that sounds a lot like the 10 toes and the 10 horns, Daniel 2, Daniel 7. And eventually we're going to take all of these regions and we're going to conglomerate them into one giant, you know, global governance. So what you're talking about with this Monet method and, you know, this strategy of, you know, transnationalism, the tiny European states relinquishing their sovereignty, et cetera, is just right on par with what we've been talking about from time immemorial with Bible prophecy. And this coming one world empire of the Antichrist, when you look at Daniel 7, verse 23, it says it crushes and treads down the inhabitants of the earth, meaning it will be tyrannical. So all of these anti-free speech laws, you know, against criticizing Islam to the point where one rogue judge says the opposite and everybody is happy because it's so out of the ordinary. But that decision was not in par with the direction Europe is going. That fits in with, you know, this whole concept of one world tyranny as well. And then I was particularly intrigued with the whole climate change mindset because the Club of Rome, all the way back in 1991, I use this quote frequently by King and Schneider. They basically say we came up with the idea of climate change. Of course, in the 90s, they said that. They didn't call it climate change. They called it global warming, but they added into the mix pollution, climate issues that man is, you know, supposedly causing. And they said, we just made this issue up because we needed a global crisis to bring in our global government. And I really appreciated what you said at the top when you talked about how the real crisis is not the crisis that they're rescuing us from, allegedly. It's the superstructure that they're putting in place to enslave us. And so that part of the discussion was very interesting as well, particularly with the leadership in Canada, now carte blanche signing on to that agenda, marching in lockstep with Europe.
Mm. And of course, we're right on cue here. They're going to continue to use climate change, which you think at some point they could find something different that actually could be provable. I mean, you would think this has been so debunked with science, but then again, these folks don't follow the science, right? COVID comes to mind. They don't follow the science, but they're going to continue going with the climate change. You think they could find something different to use to scare the people into compliance? How about, I don't know, we're all inflating away the currencies. All of our economies are going to collapse. Because you could at least look at that and go, yeah, that's really happening. So if we don't all want to see hyperinflation and lose everything we have, maybe we should all come together with the natural resources in the ground. We can tokenize it all and then go to a one world system that's actually backed with a currency that is easy for trade and it actually is backed by hard assets, real assets. I'm not making the case for them, but if I were going to make the case, I would actually do it on something people could see, right? It blows my mind they don't do that on a global scale.
I think the big operative word in their circles is polycrisis, meaning they're it's like a prosecutor trying to prosecute somebody. You just keep throwing Jell-O against the wall until something sticks. I mean, if you really want to get someone thrown in jail, the prosecutor can do that, particularly at the federal level. And that's kind of how I feel with these globalists. It's just one crisis after another. If this one doesn't work, then we'll try this one. And I think really what they're looking for is something to come together in unison, I should say. Economics, inflation, currency. Of course, we've already seen what they've done with the issue of, international health and the whole COVID era. And you throw into the mix, this climate change idea, which they're not giving up on. I mean, the United Nations with the COP summit, I think is meeting this week. Maybe they've concluded, I'm not sure, featuring luminaries like Al Gore, of all people. They're obviously doubling down and they're not letting go of that issue either, in spite of the fact that Trump has distanced himself from that issue. And catch this, even people like Bill Gates have come out publicly on blogs and distanced themselves, from climate change. And so you would think that these globalists would give up on that issue, but they're not giving up on that issue or any issue because they need some kind of crisis, and what they really are looking for is polycrisis.
And here's that rocket scientist, Prince William. I mean, this guy is, I'm sorry, this guy is not, why is it these people rise to the top that are so dumb? Of course, he was born into it, I guess, again, bad breeding on the part of that family line. Because, Andrew, Prince Andrew, and I guess he's now gotten his title taken away. The Queen, wow, what did she do? But I actually had someone text me today who runs in circles with very, very wealthy people, guys that are worth hundreds of millions, and some of them $1 billion, and people that have been highly tied into major financial institutions in America. And I guess he was at an event talking to some of them. And he texted me today and said, why is it that so many of these people that are so well known, so famous, and get so high are so dumb? He said, I stand there and I talk to them, and they don't expect me to argue with them, but I go ahead because what do I got to lose? I argue back with them, and they can't defend their position. They're just parroting propaganda. He said, the more I'm around these people, I realize the dumbest people in the world have risen to some of the highest levels. And all I could say is, it's God's judgment. Romans 1, a nation and a world of fools, vain, useless, and futile. Professing to be wise, they are fools, the Bible says. Well, here's Prince William.
We come together today here in the heart of the Amazon, at a pivotal moment in human history. A moment that demands courage, cooperation, and unwavering commitment to our planet's future. A future that belongs not to us, but to our children and grandchildren. I want to first express my profound gratitude to Brazil for welcoming us all to Belém. Over the last week, I've seen firsthand that your global commitment to environmental progress is not new. It's built on decades of bold action, visionary thinking, and shared purpose. From the Rio Earth Summit in 1992 to Brazil.
Which, by the way, his dad helped put that all together. Their summit in Rio in 92 with Maurice Strong isn't the only hope for the world, and this isn't the only hope for the planet, that the industrialized civilizations collapse. Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? His dad met on the royal yacht with a bunch of them before the event in 92 to bring it about, which our president, George H. Bush, Mr. New World Order, was there. He's on video praising Maurice Strong in one of my documentaries. A couple more minutes. I know you're losing IQ listening to him, but here we go.
Rapidly becoming a leader in renewable energy and sustainable agriculture. You have shown the world what climate ambition looks like. Just earlier this week, the vibrant city of Rio de Janeiro hosted the Earthshot Prize, a global initiative I founded to accelerate and spotlight the most innovative solutions to our planet's greatest environmental challenges.
Yeah, and he goes on to say that the world is at a tipping point. He actually said this in his speech, that the, quote, we are edging dangerously close to the Earth's tipping points, end quote. You know, he definitely is on my short list to be the Antichrist. I know a lot of people had his dad, but I would put him on the short list. Being from the royal family there in Europe, I would put him definitely on the short list of my Antichrist list. I know Tony Blair was put on there by Jimmy DeYoung. That's still possible. But I'd put Prince William on there. Dr. Woods?
Well, gosh, there's a lot to respond to there. Let's go back to the Rio de Janeiro conference, 1992. I appreciate what you said. Bush, the first Bush, put that infrastructure in place that got us sucked into all of that. And so what we've seen in the United States is we get a conservative president like Trump, and he pulls us out. You get a progressive president like Biden, he puts us back in. Trump gets a second term, he pulls us out. So we're at a very delicate place where we can be pulled in or pushed out, or vice versa, depending on the stroke of a pen, depending on if an election goes bad for us, you know, or not. And we need more than that. And so that's why I think we should call on President Trump to not just pull us out of the Paris Climate Accord, which I'm thrilled he did, but pull us out of completely the infrastructure that's in place, preventing a, God forbid, President Gavin Newsom, President AOC, or somebody like that from ever putting us back into the structure again. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for President Trump to not just pull us out of these things, but to demolish the structure upon which they are erected. And that will truly secure his legacy and history as a great nationalist.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Prince William reportedly flew on a private plane 5,000 miles to give a speech on climate change and how we're all at the tipping point. But they got all these gigantic homes that I'm sure they're got heat and air conditioning in, which Maurice Strong said we had to get rid of all the heat and air conditioners, certainly the air conditioners. I mean, wow. That's all I can say. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. Andy Woods, andywoodsministries.org.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. And welcome back. Glad you're with us. Andy Woods is with us. AndyWoodsMinistries.org. AndyWoodsMinistries.org. And just finished up Revelation on Sunday night, as you guys know, 53 lessons. And the commentary and study guide will be out before the end of the month. I just talked to Jill, my editor, who's also helping with Jeb, I think, to lay out the pages of that. They're telling me they think that one will be done by the end of November. So there you go. You don't need to buy it. It'll be in the vault for vault members at worldviewtube.com/vault. Comes in, I think, around 200 plus pages. So verse by verse through the book of Revelation, a year and a half, 53 lessons. And that's available to you at worldviewtube.com/vault. Sure appreciate all of you calling our testimonial line to leave a testimonial that we can play on the air coming up December 4 and 5. We're going to be doing our International Worldview Weekend online, an International Online Worldview Weekend. You would think we're all about serving the climate, so we're not flying them all in. We're going to do it online. We're not concerned about the climate, but you would think they would have done that meeting in Brazil online by Zoom or something, right? But no, I guess Prince William had to fly a private jet. But we are doing an online event coming up December 4 and 5, a Thursday and a Friday. And we would love to play your testimonials of what the broadcast has meant to you. You can leave a voicemail that we'll play on the air at 901-468-9357. If the voicemail gets full, just give us a couple hours. We'll get it cleaned out and let you get back in there. 901-468-9357. Thank you for your testimonial to encourage us and others. Just like Drew from Michigan. That's so encouraging. And we'd love to hear more of that from you. 901-468-9357. Dr. Woods, let's go to another issue, and that is 42 Muslim candidates seize control of U.S. elections. CARE's political army has arrived. Something Annie Cyrus and myself and others have been warning about. Sharam, Usama. I'm starting to believe that Islam plays a much bigger role in end times Bible prophecy than maybe some of the guys that you and I respect so much considered. Granted, they weren't alive, in the last few years to see what's happened. So what are your thoughts as you look at Bible prophecy now and see the rise globally of Islam, even in Sudan, we're dealt with last night, 2.8 million Christians murdered in Sudan by Islamists. Do you think we're going to see a bigger role of Islam than we maybe had some of our 70s and 80s Bible prophecy experts understand?
Yeah, well, the title of my book, one of my books, is The Middle East Meltdown, and the subtitle is The Coming Islamic Invasion of Israel. And as you and Peter were talking, all of the countries that you mentioned, North Africa, Sudan, Ethiopia, those are all players in the end times invasion by a conglomeration of nations against Israel. And every single one of those nations, the only possible exception is Rosh or Russia. But even that nation has a growing Islamic population within it. But other than Rosh or Russia, every nation that's mentioned there in Ezekiel 38 and 39, you ask yourself, what do they all have in common? Well, they're all Islamic. And Islam, I believe, it furnishes the motivation for the attack against Israel, because in Islam, Jerusalem is a holy site. It's where Muhammad ascended back to Allah on a steed named Barak. It's the third holiest site within Islam. And so Israel's mere presence there is looked at as a usurper, an occupier, and disrespect of Allah. And then you throw into the mix what happened in our recent election, where we now have 6 mayors, 4 statewide legislative offices, 20 city, town council and commissioners, 2 judicial county offices, 6 school boards, and 3 other positions, 42 total, are now won by Muslims. And that is a milestone for them. And essentially what they're doing is they're doing exactly what they said they would do. They're changing our country from within. Remember, they're the ones that said, we're going to, topple your house with your miserable hands, your miserable house with your hands. And it's cultural jihad. They're changing the United States from within. America was started as a Judeo-Christian country, a Bible-based country. That's why we've always given deference to Israel, because we see Israel in the Bible. But all you have to do is get the nation's character to change a little bit. And now we can understand why America doesn't seem to, on the pages of God's word, jump to Israel's aid or assistance or even defense during that infamous Gog-Magog invasion. I mean, the more pro-Islamic our country becomes, the more the concept of Zionism will dissipate, and the more people will look at the nation of Israel in negative terms. And so I think all of this is fitting into the pages of Bible prophecy. And so will Islam play a role in the end times? I mean, obviously, there's very little doubt in my mind about the answer to that question.
Let's go to this real quick. Texas, sprawling 150,000 square foot Islamic center opens in Houston. Wait a minute. You're in Sugar Land, Texas. This is not far from you, my friend.
Right. That's why I included it, in my stack of stuff here. And here is the mayor of Houston, a man named John Whitmire. We used to call this in basketball matador defense, where you kind of don't play much defense and you let your man score at will, kind of like the way the NBA is today. Not to get into sports analyst business too much, but to me, watching professional basketball is such a disappointment. Nobody plays defense, and it's like a three-point shooting contest, and you don't have the dominant centers or big men, that you had when I followed the game. Guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, etc. No extra charge for that. Larry Bird.
Yeah, Larry Bird.
Those kind of guys. So people just don't play defense, and that's what this Whitmire is doing. He's not playing any defense. He's, rolling out the red carpet for this latest Islamic enclave, which, quite frankly, is on par with your buddy there, Yasser Qadi, and what he's trying to do in Epic down in Plano.
Which they're renaming and going to keep going, which we knew they would, because I think your governor is pretty useless. But on top of that, they're exploiting our religious liberties. So they know how to use the courts and our own laws and liberties against us. So apparently they're just going to rename it Prairie something another and keep going. No, really, they are. And we told everybody that would happen. I mean,
sad.
We told everybody that would happen. Islam will dominate America, okay? We will see Christians being beheaded in America. We will see jihadist attacks in America. We will see Christians persecuted and prosecuted for speaking truth about Islam. The question is, are we ready? Be armed up spiritually. Take care.
This has been...
And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube right here. Dr. Woods, what else? You sent me a big stack of stuff. Anything else jumps out at you in your stack of stuff today you want to particularly talk about in the last few minutes?
Well, here's something, and this is Sugarland also. This is a tweet where I live. Amy Mick of Rare Foundation, you've quoted a lot of her stuff, as have I. Here's a guy whose last name of all names is Imam, who's the hereditary leader of the Shia Imam Ismaili Muslims. And here he is visiting different cities in Texas. And he came to Houston, got red carpet treatment. He was treated like a foreign dignitary. He's not a mayor. He's not a senator. He's not a governor. He's a Muslim, and he's treated, as if he's some kind of ally. There's the mayor, John Whitmire of Houston, rolling out the red carpet. And here's the Sugarland mayor, my mayor, Carol McCutcheon, doing the exact same thing. And then the guy goes down to Dallas and Carrollton, cities out there, and they do the same thing for him out there. So there's no defense being played by our Republican establishment here in the great state of Texas. And it's almost like they're cooperating, with this sort of Islamic cultural jihad agenda. And it's almost like they think, boy, if we're nice to these people and play patty cake with them, then the threat of Islam will disappear. And I just don't know where the heads are of our Republican leadership and why they're not taking a stand against this.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at this. Here's the growing pain, Kirk Cameron. 96,000 people have seen this, and this was just put out not too long ago, 4 hours ago. Kirk Cameron's done with Israel. He's encouraging Christian Zionists to read their Bibles and not to be so retarded. Oh, wow. If you're getting your theology and worldview from Kirk Cameron anymore, I mean, we had him speak for us several times on his testimony, but I don't know. We stopped booking him. I mean, he's a nice guy, but I realized pretty quick, this guy is, well, he basically said, I just memorized Ray Comfort's stuff and walked out and gave the speech. I was like, why would you admit that? Why can't you put this in your own words? So I am, in my opinion, I think he's a little he's not a real bright fellow in my opinion, but regardless of that, why would you want to get your theology and doctrine and eschatology from Kirk Cameron of all people?
Well, he is what we would call an empty vessel or an empty suit. He's somebody that has popularity because of his role as a childhood actor, and he is someone that people will attach weight and credibility to based on his appearance, in childhood comedy. But he doesn't know anything about theology. In fact, when he talks, it's actually Gary DeMar, Kenneth Gentry, those kinds of people that are behind him, pulling the strings, because he's not serving up anything new. I mean, we showed that the other day on your show when we refuted his beast equals Nero hypothesis. Those are just old, dated, well-used arguments going back decades. I mean, Kenneth Gentry was saying all that stuff in print as a scholar. It's been debunked and refuted, and now they've found a new kind of empty vessel to pour their, vile, sick, wicked, satanic theory into. And here are these kind of mind-numbed robots just hanging on his every word because what he says must be true because I saw him on my TV screen when I was growing up.
All right, Dr. Woods. How long before the Lord returns?
I can't tell you, but it looks like.
What's your wife
soon.
say? I think she has a more optimistic outlook.
Well, she says, I'll let her speak for herself. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but John Walver was asked that question, and he said this: "I wouldn't buy any green bananas." So let's just leave it there.
I wouldn't buy green bananas. Well, tonight on Brand House Live, I'm going to deal with the dollar. Folks, the government doesn't want to release the CPI numbers. They say that somehow the Democrats during the shutdown messed it up. I'm not buying it. The consumer price index, inflation is higher than they want you to know. Donald Trump just told you everything is down. Energy prices are down. Inflation is down. So they can't release the numbers because it's not down. And I think they're about to do another cut the 1st of December. They are going to start doing quantitative easing. They have the choice really only of to inflate away our debt, to inflate away the debt, okay? All the people that are following these kind of things and have for decades all know we're headed for massive inflation, folks, to inflate away the debt. So we'll deal with that tonight on Brandon House Live. 15 seconds. Thoughts on that, Dr. Woods?
Well, we can blame another Republican for that, a guy I generally like, but Richard Milhouse Nixon took us off the gold standard, and that was just a catastrophic decision leading to this kind of monetary policy that we have today.
Wow, incredible. All right, Dr. Andy Woods, AndyWoodsMinistries.org. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Thank you, folks. And don't forget, my brand new book is out at worldviewtube.com/vault. Siege is now out at worldviewtube.com/vault. Take care.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.